Welcome back to the Humble Healer podcast with Dr. Quang Le, family physician. And thank you for taking your time tuning into this episode. This is part two of the series of how to have a great sexual relationship with your partner. And in part one of this series, I discussed about the importance of having good sexual health and how to invest in your relationship with your partner to improve your sexual health. Also, we talked about the importance of being emotionally connected to your partner for a good sexual health. And your partner may love you, but if they no longer enjoy your company or spending time with you, then there will not be any sexual relationship. For more details about how to improve your partner relationship, please refer to my series about the partner relationship a few weeks ago. And last time I also discussed about the sexual stages. The first one is desire, which involve feelings, thoughts, and fantasies that stimulate sexual interest. Stage 2, excitement, which includes arousal, when body prepares for sexual activities with increased heart rate and blood flow to the genitals. And also plateau, when the excitement phase intensifies, eventually leading to orgasm. And orgasm is the climax of the sexual response, which involve intense physical and emotional pleasure and release. Please keep these in mind when we discussed about tips and strategies on how to improve our relationship, our sexual activities later on in this episode. And the final stage is resolution, when the body to return to its pre-aroused state and time for relaxation and recovery. Also, I discussed briefly about building up anticipation to activate the arousal state, specific compliment, nice, kind gesture to your partner, well-timed romantic meal, and so on. Now we get to the physical interaction, and there are some major pointers I would like to go through first. The episode can be very explicit, so I do not recommend anyone below the age of 18 to listen to this. And if you think this is TMI, then you can stop. But remember that sexual health is important for both mental and physical health. So getting down to the specifics can be very helpful in understanding and helping you achieve optimal sexual health with your partner. The process had to involve both partners' participation and good communication in order to have a safe and exciting sexual relationship. Always ask for feedback, negative or positive, before and also during sexual activities with your partners to improve your interactions for the present and the future. And another pointer is that female physiology and responses are much more complex than males, and just that's the way it is, as in our DNAs. So that's the basis for how we can improve the relationship, is to for the male is to slow down on the process to synchronize with the female response in order to improve both partners' sexual pleasure. The first step is slow down the sensory stimulation, and by slowing down the process, which is enjoyable, so do not rush this process. And think about men stimulation is like a light switch, on and off, but women's stimulation works more like a dimmer, a very slow dimmer. And the goal is not the end, but to create a slow, enjoyable process to allow time while female partners to warm up. Apply mindfulness in this process, just like everything else in life, will improve the experience, the sensual experiences for both partners. Explore the whole body and spend longer time on what we call the hot spots, other than the usual hot spots that guys usually go to right away, the breast and the genital in the female. Remember that to approach this process like how you would approach life is a journey, and that is more important than the destination. It's the process that's more important than the outcome. Ironically, focusing on the journey and process improves both your destination and outcome. And think of the process like a target. When you hit the outer layer, slowly, one at a time, building up the heat as you head toward the bullseye in the center, so that when you eventually and slowly and mindfully get to the bullseye, They will be ready to explode, just waiting for you to trigger that explosion. Pay attention to your partner and not to yourself or your performance. Just like a conversation, you become better conversation partner when you are interested or show interest in what your partners have to say rather than try to impress your partner by trying to be interesting. Same idea or concept here is that focus on your partner and her response and try not to focus on how well you do. And when you focus on how she responds to your stimulation, this will help guide your approach. Also, by focusing more on your partner, you will inevitably become a much better partner or lover in the process. You're less worried about how you perform and more on slowing down the process of providing sensory pleasure for your partner. Also, focusing on your partner helps those who get too excited too early, which would cause premature ending of the encounter. And this takes away the pleasure. And when you slow things down in a deliberate manner, this gives you better control over your own reaction. Do things with intention and try to mix things up a bit to avoid being monotonous. So some of the hot spots that I have learned in a female body is the back of the neck, or the front of the neck, even this scalp area with gentle massage can be also uh, provide some pleasure for the females. And in the wrist is a hidden erogenous zone as well as behind the knees area. And the inner thighs are also highly erogenous and highly sensitive. And it functions as a doorway to the entire pleasure system. One activity that can enhance the excitement is blindfolding your partner. Out of the ordinary activities should be discussed and approved by both partners in order to have a safe and exciting interaction. And by losing one sense, it does enhance the senses of another. In this case, the touch. Another fun activity, you could try to playfully tie her up. This will bolster the idea of her surrendering to pleasure and also allow you more time to explore her whole body. With slow and deliberate exploration and enjoyment, and also providing pleasure for your female partner, her skin become increasingly sensitive and her breasts swell, and certain chemicals and hormones are also released, putting her in a state of euphoria. The love hormone oxytocin is produced, and when her nipples and her other hot spots are stimulated, the clitoral head also emerges from its hood at this point. So as you see that it takes time to bring about these responses, priming or warming up the female body. Another tip is restraint or teasing, building up tension, but make sure you pick the right time to apply this strategy. This brings a lot of excitement to the female partners of building up tension, then pull back a bit, leading to a much stronger climax for your partners at the end. Also important to learn mindfulness and focusing on your partner to help bring excitement for both of you throughout this process. Repeat this, bringing excitement and pull back a bit a few times, but do not apply this strategy when she's close to the climax at the end of the plateau stage. So when they are about to climax, this is not a time when you do this, only in the beginning, the excitement and the early part of the plateau phase. Let's move on to the next part is the clitoral stimulation. This is a very important part, obviously. And it's commonly misunderstood notion that in order for sex to be successful, it had to include the act of penetration. By putting the woman first and making sure that she reaches orgasm through oral pleasure, you can create a more extraordinary and mutually satisfying sexual experience. There are many nicknames for the clitoris, the orgasm switch, the happy maker, the love button, and so on. It makes giving a woman an orgasm sound easy if only were like pressing a button. In reality, the clitoris is highly complex. That's why learning the art of clitoral stimulation is important. The clitoris itself is made up of the head, shaft, and base, which together extend from the top of the pubic bone down to the anus. There are also unseen parts surrounding some of the vagina. Altogether, the clitoris has 8,000 nerve fibers. That's more than any other part of the body So it's worth studying if you want to learn how to really pleasure a woman. Clitoral stimulation should happen only after you go through all the other outer layers of the bullseye, exploring all the other hotspots. By going to clitoral stimulation and skipping the foreplay part too prematurely, not only does that bring pleasure, but may even bring discomfort to your partners. Males should give at least 15 minutes even before approaching the clitoris and save this for the plateau phase, which precedes orgasm. When you get to this phase, show some appreciation for your partner. Make her feel appreciated and beautiful is important. And when you get to this area, start slowly from the outside inner thigh and work slowly toward the vulva and then clitoris. Try to vary your movement. Get in a comfortable position for both of you. And one may try propping her pelvis with a pillow to improve comfort during this process. Also, make an attempt for double stimulation by stimulating the G-spot at the same time, using one and then two fingers using the come hither movement. Don't forget that you're learning these techniques because you respect the process of female arousal. To remind yourself, here are 3 assurances to recall. The first one is to remember that you receive an equal amount of enjoyment from slowing down the sensory process and providing pleasure for your female partners. When you perform the process, as it's calling for oral pleasure for your female partners, you're delaying your own gratification for good reason. When sex doesn't revolve around penetration and when you stop focusing on your performance, it will get much better. The second assurance is all about giving her as much time as she needs to orgasm. If you find yourself wondering how long the cunnilingus session should last, the answer is as long as it takes her to climax. This depends on how much time you spend before getting to clitoral stimulation. In setting up speeding through foreplay, try to pleasure her as much as possible. A woman who has been stimulated thoroughly during foreplay will find it a lot easier to reach orgasm. If you show impatience, this can indeed prolong the amount of time it takes for a woman to reach climax. Last but not least is the third assurance, which is about savoring her individual scent and taste. One woman will taste and smell different to another, but both are susceptible to change depending on the woman's diet and her menstrual cycle, and you should savor her uniqueness. Remember that a woman's vagina is a self-cleaning system. In fact, it's a lot more sanitary than the mouth and several other parts of the body. Orgasm. At this point, muscle tension, breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure all increase. The entrance to the vagina also narrows and lengthens by at least 2 inches, and the clitoral head retracts beneath its hood, where it remains until climax. And finally, the dramatic resolution when everything tightens as an explosive orgasm occurs. This is a series of rapid rhythmic contraction, which happens into the vaginal wall and the pelvic floor. These movements are accompanied by sensation of sheer pleasure, which cause women to ejaculate a little fluid. On average, men only have 4 to 6 contractions when they orgasm, and in comparison, women tend to have 6 to 10. Resolution. Men tend to lose their erections fairly quickly after an orgasm, but it takes a lot longer for women's genital areas to return to their pre-aroused state. This means that with little stimulation, a woman is ready to start the process again. One can take advantage of this slow female resolution process to go for another orgasm, perhaps using the penetrative method this time. The female body at this time is at its heightened state, so it is easier for them to go back to the plateau phase all the way back to another orgasm. Her genital is still filled with blood and her body remains highly aroused. Once you reach the final resolution, don't just roll over and go to sleep. Instead, celebrate the brilliance of sex by taking an extra 15 minutes of more play to kiss and cuddle and stay connected. It does take time. A lot of females got disappointed when the male partner just roll over and go to sleep. Do not give her that feeling of wham bam thank you ma'am kind of deal. Not the way to go. So I hope that you find this process informative, and I hope that if you're a man, then hopefully that will help bring some more tips and strategy and to your next interaction with your partner, female partners. And if you're a female, perhaps share that with your male partners so that you can improve your enjoyment and sexual pleasure. And please leave feedback and comments about what works and what does not work for your sexual relationship with your partners. Thank you for tuning in, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and also turn on the bell notification. Take care. Bye-bye.